2v8 has returned to Dead by Daylight, and after an eventful first couple days of the event, I have some thoughts on how it can be further improved. Most changes are actually relatively small, because the play while you wait feature should be a huge win in my opinion, at least on paper. Queue times are going to be long no matter what behavior decided they wanted to do when it comes to fixing all this. We're getting near the mode being well done. I feel like we're still missing some huge outliers in terms of killers, classes, as well as some of the more quality of life aspects that could really make the game mode pop, past more than it being the fresh new thing for people to play. People were extremely excited to play it when it was first added last year, and over time, that excitement has begun to wear out. Other than the introduction of new killers, usually we rarely see anything exciting added. We had the herbs added with the Resident Evil themed 2v8 that were removed for the next iteration. The overhaul to the classes in the second iteration, plus the reworking of hooking so flashlight and pallet saves became a thing, and that's really all in terms of the new things being added. In this video, I'm going to cover what I consider some of the biggest outliers, and then move into the smaller quality of life things that would be a big improvement for the game. To begin, I want to take a look at this iteration of 2v8 and the things that were either introduced or changed. This version of 2v8 is the skinniest in terms of new killers being brought to the mode, with a whopping 0. Not sure what it is that caused behavior to decide to skimp out on adding nothing new to the killer roster. We really missed out on the introduction to the killers linked to the maps, Knight, Doctor, and the Unknown. All could have been added in the mode with some minimal changes to make them more viable in a 2v8 situation. All three of these killers have loyal player bases that would have been extremely happy to see their killers being added, but so be it. As I just said, we were given 3 new maps, that being the Shattered Square, the Greenville Square, and Leary's Memorial Institute. 2 of these maps I like a lot, and we're very happy to see them added. The other one, not so much. But you have to add a few maps that killers like Ghostface and Wraith, for example, could thrive on. Otherwise, those killers will fall behind quite a bit. We now have 2 indoor maps in the 2v8 roster, which, despite how I feel about indoor maps as a concept, has given these killers more of a chance. In actual gameplay, as expected, Leary's is genuinely pretty rough for a lot of killers in the mode. The biggest losers being Huntress, Billy, Blight, and maybe Oni. I don't know, I don't really like to play Oni very much. As for the other 2 maps, Borgo is, as expected, genuinely pretty solid. It's kind of hard to mess up the Shattered Square as a map, so I didn't really expect anything but a good map. Greenville is good, but for some reason does end up looking like Silent Hill at points during the match because of how foggy it gets. This is almost certainly a bug, which, because of everything that happened since the Walking Dead patch, are we really shocked that it's bugged? As for the changes to Legion, they seem mostly fine. Legion just was, and still is, very strong in 2v8. Changes were necessary for the character to bring him more in line with the rest of the cast, especially after the introduction of the incredibly strong Oni. Tuning him down overall while making his chase power a bit better is a pretty big thumbs up for me. The large amount of Killer Instinct procs could become extremely overwhelming for players at times. Legion is noticeably weaker, but nowhere near as weak as a killer like Nemesis or the Slinger. We're a year into the 2v8 cycle, and I think now is a good time to begin adjusting some of the balance of the characters and classes in the mode. With the changes to Legion that I just mentioned, as well as a rework to Guide, Escapist, and Shadow, we've already seen steps being taken in this direction. Escapist has become extremely silly with the introduction of Manual Sprint Burst. Close enough, welcome back Old Dead Hard. The rest of the kit goes unchanged, which is, whatever. Killers can usually catch up, but it's definitely less than ideal in a mode where killers already struggle a little bit. As for the new guide, it's incredibly fun to use because Blast Mine is and always will be extremely funny, but playing against it can be pretty frustrating due to just how much time is taken up by the long stun. On one hand, you could argue that the haha that guy just blew up is very funny, which justifies a new perk. On the other hand, you could argue, oh my god, stop blowing me up. However, I do think that guide is much more well balanced than the former version of the class had the potential of being. If you remember, Guide used to be incredibly strong, and now is a bit weaker, but depending on your patience for being exploded every time you try to do your objective, can now be pretty annoying. Survivor is currently just very strong in 2v8, which just kind of fits into the general theme of the game right now, doesn't it? It's always been strong, but was struggling with being as fun as Killer in the mode, due to feeling you're just an AI enemy waddling around waiting for one or both of the killers to find you. You could argue that the fun of the Survivor role in 2v8 is more important since the main focus is the fun factor of playing Killer with a friend. You see people sitting in 30-minute queues with their friends just to lose and not care because they got to enjoy the match. On the other hand, you could argue, oh my god, I just waited 30 minutes just to lose in 6 minutes, fuck this fucking awful game, oh my god, we should have just played Apex. Don't play Apex, don't do that to yourself. So, with the overly With the overly long introduction to current 2v8 out of the way, what are some improvements that could be done to the mode? Well, I really think it comes down to a few things. We need new killers, the removal of badly thought out mechanics, the reintroduction of mechanics that were good, and new classes. Let's start with what I consider the most important thing that should be addressed.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
With the introduction of the new and mostly improved 2v8 on November 12th, running until November 28th, when Doomed Course was released, we were given the momentum mechanic, which would apply either 5% progression per cage state or -5 regression per generator completed. This was added to try and prevent the match from swinging in the favor of one role or the other. While the intention was a genuinely good thing, the implementation has left more to be desired. Point being that now the momentum swings at a moment's notice, requiring the affected team to struggle a lot to get the advantage back on their side. It also inadvertently rewards killers for playing in a sweatier way due to the momentum being shifted based on hook stages with no added context. Meaning that caging the same survivor 3 times in a row will give the same amount of momentum as caging 3 unique survivors. This is something that sweatier killers will absolutely exploit to the best of their ability, while more casual killers will be punished by. Killers are punished for having a good start and doing well in chases by the generators now being done faster for the survivors who are left, especially if the killers do not tunnel. This creates a situation where the best thing to do in literally every game is to hard tunnel someone out in the mode where anti-tunnel perks just don't exist. I also just find it strange that players are punished for doing well.
Chris, is that a weed?
No, this is a crayon.
I'm calling the police!
You could try to alleviate the issue a bit with the introduction of the herbs from the Resident Evil 2v8. I genuinely have no idea where these were removed in the first place, past just being a weird licensing thing, maybe? They added another thing for people to interact with in a mode that lacks additional things for survivors to do other than generators, unhooks, and chest. This re-adds the interaction of looking for the green and yellow herbs, which, to jog your memory, the green would heal the survivor for an immediate health state once interacted with, and the yellow would remove the survivor's hook stage that they recently got. 2 yellow herbs would spawn in the trial. If the killer found an herb and interacted with it, they, along with their teammate, would be given 10% haste. This effect could just be thrown onto totems, but I have a different idea in mind involving the 5 currently pointless totems that are on the map. Either adding an entirely new prompt to the mode to have the same effect as the herbs, or, if possible, simply re-adding the herbs themselves. I think these would both be good for filling the box of here is something else that you can do, that being a scavenger hunt, other than just having to hold M1 on generators. As for the totems, let's move into what I think 2v8 has been missing since November, and that is the introduction of some more classes.
My favorite class is the Spy.
Consider this as some examples behaviors could use at some point. I'm sure there's probably some inherent issues with them, but I'll try and do my best to address this. But it's at least something new that wouldn't be extremely overpowered, and I really don't think would be extremely weak either. Currently, I could think of 2 for survivors and 1 for the killers. One of them is its own thing, and the other ties into the killer class. Sorta. So let's begin with the survivor classes. First, we have the archaeologist class. This class would focus on retrieving higher quality items from the chests that are dotted around the map, or upgrading lower quality ones. Perks like Plunderer's Instinct, Exaltation, and Specialist could be added in this class in order to give them quality rewards for spending time opening the chest. Items will be highlighted in a white aura for them and their teammates, similar to the effect of Weave Attunement. This provides another version of playing support, however instead of medic, it's support through the always enjoyable playstyle of stocking your teammates up with high quality items to assist them in chase, healing, or repairing generators. As for the second class, it ties directly into the killer class that I think has been completely forgotten. That being a boon class, as well as a hex class for killers. Unfortunately, this is something that could be a bit difficult to implement due to just how many survivors are in the trial. The totems are just going to be found quickly. For killer, you could add perks like Dominance and Thrill the Hunt to provide protection to the hex. As for the effects of the hex itself, I would go with something like Hex Ruin at its old 200% regression rate, Hex Crowd Control, and maybe Hex Blood Favor would be the 3 effects I would choose for the class to provide generator regression from Ruin, as well as giving Crowd Control and Blood Favor to provide the killers with some in-chase assistance. Of course, this means that if the survivors do break the totem class would be left with nothing. But this is the RNG nature of hexes, a feast or famine scenario that killers could opt to ignore if they wanted, and just use one of the other classes. As for the Survivor Boon class, I would like to see Boon Exponential, Boon Circle of Healing, as well as Boon Illumination being put into the class. The effects of the boons could pretty comfortably just be imported straight from 1v4 without many changes, with the exception of a faster Boon moving speed for Illumination, because that perk's kinda bad. Totem interaction is one of my favorite things in DbD, and seeing the Bone Boys have literally zero purpose inside the mode, besides helping a survivor grind their P100, it's just strange to me. Totems have been a part of the game since 2016, and they've been seeing a bit of a resurgence in the 1v4 version of the game over the past year or so. It would be nice to see them have at least some use cases in 2v8. As for killers that I think should probably already be in the 2v8 roster, in order to keep this from me just adding killers that I really like and just wanting more ways to play them, I'm going to try and look at this from the viewpoint of what the mode needs more of. With that, let's get into our first killer. Our friend Lisa was the second trap killer added to the game, and after Freddy got his rework and Merchant was defeated by a 1000 degree knife, it leaves Trapper and her as the only two left standing. We already have Trapper, but if you look at the other class of killers, that being dash killers pretty much, we have Billy, Blight, and Oni, a 3-to-1 ratio, with her being the only remaining character with the trapping playstyle. I really do think we should get her into the 2v8 cycle. As for making Hag work in 2v8, it's pretty simple I think. Range add-ons, setting speed, etc. Buffer trapped hardcore. Personally though, I don't think we should give her Rusty Shackles, cause that add-on could be a bit much, especially with paired with everything else. Increase her base traps to 15 maybe? I'm trying to be a bit careful with Hag, cause to be honest, a lot of us older players remember just how much of a monster Hag can be. Granted, she was given a new counter since then. I still do think Hag has a bit of a chance against most teams, especially in 2v8 where the average survivor skill level in the lobby is a toaster. This is a character that I don't find particularly interesting, but I'm more interested in filling out the roster with the character archetypes other than I go fast and hit a lot of people. Instead, this character, much like her slightly weaker cousin, will reward players for locking down an area and forcing survivors to come into that area when they have no other choice. At which point the trap killer begins to feast. Hey, if you don't believe me, play Trapper this way in 2v8 right now. You'll see a drastic increase in viability. He's a fantastic late game killer in 2v8. Not so much in regular 1v4, but he can turn a game on its head. This is something I believe Hag would share with him. The next killer I think would have an interesting playstyle in the mode is a killer that, at time of recording, I have put in the timeout corner. Kenneth Haste himself, the Clown. Clown's changes in The Walking Dead patch are one of the worst in modern Dead by Daylight history. Whether you think it made him stronger or not, it's an almost universally despised change. However, I think it has the potential to be extremely interesting in 2v8 for teamwork scenarios. Clown giving his teammate haste during the trials is a fun team-up mechanic that reminds me of Marvel Rivals, and the absolutely goofy things you can do in that game to get some picks during the match. As for Clowns though, he would suffer quite a bit from the gluttonous amount of pallets that are clogging the arteries of the map pool. Pre-drop Peters already do extremely well against Clown, so I don't think he'd end up being very strong. But similar to characters like Nemesis, the value offered to his teammates could theoretically be enough to offset his downsides. Nemesis offers the zombies to be annoying and the slowdown from the T-virus cures. Clown would offer massive haste gains as well as hindered on survivors. The issue is unfortunately that Clown would need to hover around his teammates. For his add-ons though, I would give to Clown larger antidote and tonic clouds, faster reload movement speed, increased intoxication, and invigoration duration. For a lightning round, let's hit some licensed characters that could be cool, but I couldn't be bothered to think of a kit because I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. Pig to give us a proper slowdown mechanic that isn't a mending simulator. Chucky, I did briefly cover him when I did my Freddy in 2v8 video. And finally the Demogorgon, because I love that character and will use any excuse I can to talk about how much I love him. We're nearly done here, but another issue with the mode right now is that it's brought back once every 2 to 3 months. But when it's here, it's around for like 2 weeks or longer at a time. People are always going to be sick of something once it's around for that long. Absolutely destroying the queue times of normal Dead by Daylight. It's like the perfect example of the saying, how can I miss you if you won't go away? 2v8 was one of the most requested modes, if not the most requested thing that Dead by Daylight has ever seen. A lot of the problems that the mode has had was somehow unforeseen by the community. Long queue times, bad balance, weird mechanics being unnecessarily added, good mechanics being removed for some unknown reason. But at the end of the day, I do genuinely think that 2v8 is not only good for DbD, but extremely fun for, a couple of days until the novelty wears off. Instead of just throwing the mode out every 2 months with minimal changes, I would really like to see 2v8 go away for a while to be cooked in the oven for a few more months, much like Chaos Shuffle seemingly has. Of course, now that I've said that, Chaos Shuffle will be back literally next week with 0 changes to it. Interest is quickly lost when there's nothing new to sink your teeth into. This iteration of 2v8 is the biggest example of it. While Play While You Wait is good on paper at the very least, the reception has not been as good as you'd hope if you worked at behavior. Here's to hoping that with the 2 health initiatives that we've been told about this year, that'll lead to some new additions to the already existing modifiers, as well as general quality of life improvements for other than just being slightly nerfing a character or buffing a class. As for today though, that's it from me. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you really enjoyed it and enjoyed Dead by Daylight Yap content, feel free to subscribe to catch the next one early. My Twitch channel and Discord servers are both linked in the description. My name is Kasir, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye bye everyone.